Oh, hello there. I didn't see you come in. That was a lie. This is the, I believe, the penultimate segment of runZero Day. If you've seen runZero Hour, it's just like that, just so much longer. We are here in San Francisco, across the street from Moscone Center, just to remind, and I'm here with legitimately some of my oldest friends in Austin, HD and John Cran, who, that is the last time I will refer to him as John Cran. He is always and forever will be J Cran. Apparently, I only know people by initials, which is also your day. So, hello, gentlemen.
Good to see you.
It's great to see you, J Cran. So, we're here today to talk about the infinite I, how AI threat intelligence gives defenders an asymmetric edge. What?
Wow. What an intro.
I know.
Yeah.
What's your deal, J Cran?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to see you guys. I see you so rarely in Austin these days, so it's nice to get together in San Francisco. So we're kind of pre-launch. We've been building, we as a small team of practitioner engineer types have been building for a couple years now on a AI threat intel, product called Mallory. And Mallory is...
I've heard of Mallory.
Yeah, okay.
She's kind of a jerk.
Yes, yeah. So it was kind of a, I like to have a double entendre for any sort of like significant name. And Mallory was, the attacker in the Alice and Bob RSA, kind of early.
Describing cryptography. Yeah. You often have Alice wants to talk to Bob.
Yeah.
Eve is peeking, and Mallory is actively getting in there. And throwing punches.
That's right. I was able to snag that name early on, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. We could go any number of directions you want to go with this, but ultimately, I was frustrated personally with being able to keep up with what's happening in cyber. I don't know how you guys feel. I feel old. I feel old. I feel it in my bones these days. My feet hurt. It's really, what we started doing was collecting signal from every source we can get our hands on. Of course, MITRE and NVD and CISA and the official sources, but also vendor blogs and a lot of OSINT and ultimately some dark web stuff, and wanted to pull that together into a cohesive understanding of what's happening in the world. Yeah. And that became the genesis of Mallory. And we realized as soon as somebody starts looking at that, they go like, yeah, so what? There's tons of stuff happening. Does it matter? And so now we're starting to contextualize it to the organization. We learn what industry they're in, ultimately what technologies they're running, and try to make it so that you can answer the question, am I exposed? Does this matter? Does this particular thing that's happening in the world right now matter to me? And answer that quickly. And so am I exposed in 5 minutes or less is really like the goal, like across everything. Not just, vulnerabilities, which I think, you guys may know a thing or two about the vulnerabilities. And also across supply chain and software supply chain and, any number of these attack surfaces that are out there today. So, and of course, we started working together a long time ago and have kind of continued that relationship, and it was really exciting to get a chance to show it off to you guys and ultimately to
work brag about why we use it, how we use it. So J Cran was very nice to let us use Mallory in the early days, and our goal at runZero is to help customers not get owned, right? Yeah. We want you to know about every breach that's going to be significant, every potential breach as soon as you possibly can to make sure you can take it offline. So a lot of times vendors will tell you that there's a new vulnerability with IOCs, which means that there's already active exploitation by the time you even hear about it. So our goal is how do we go as fast as we possibly can from understanding that a new vulnerability is significant to telling our customers exactly what systems are exposed quick enough that they can avoid being compromised or backdoored. And that's the whole bit, right? So since we started working with Mallory, we've basically beaten every single other threat vendor on the planet to the punch. So we had a blog post out with a search query in the product to find all of your MongoDB servers affected by Mongo bleed Christmas Eve. Some of our competitors started working on it January 9th. And that's been it. So if you've been using runZero to watch your stuff, every major vulnerability, you're usually hearing about it from us first, along with a list of exactly what stuff is affected in your environment, and that's all due to Mallory.
So it's very generous of you. The team at runZero is pretty incredible, and so it's been a really my pleasure to work with you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, these guys. No, it's in dog fooding and kind of helping us build the product and sort of putting the challenge in front of us of you needed to be faster than every other single vendor, right? Which forces you to go to the sources to make sure, and I describe it as like a research and analysis pipeline. We're taking all this content. You should be able to put any piece of content into this, and it should figure out if it's actual real threat intelligence, how important and how trusted is that piece of information. You should be able to throw Moltbook into it and have it figure out, oh yeah, that's a bunch of agents chattering, like that's not real. And there's real challenges with the noise on the internet these days. And so high signal, fast, and I put it on the front page when seconds matter, right? You should know. And so, the Trivy thing going on this week, where, Trivy, the security scanner is compromised, it's pretty exciting to watch that unfold in real time. And so we've been kind of tracking that, and we have the full timeline. And it's on the website, too. You can actually go hit stories and actually see how it unfolded and how it's still unfolding in real time.
So I would say, like, the thing, like, just dialing very personally, right? The thing that Mallory... What has Mallory done for me lately? It has gotten me just a little bit more,
be careful now.
More along like the line of like, okay, I guess I can use like LLMs, AI, whatever we're calling AI, to do my job faster and smarter, right? Like Mallory, of all the offerings out there, like I like ChatGPT. I do. I think it's fun. But that it's a toy as far as I'm concerned. Whereas Mallory seems like, oh, this is kind of super dope. And it reminds me, I can hear your voice in it. And I can say that because we all used to work together on Metasploit.
That's right.
And we did exactly this of like chasing hot vulns to know like where should Metasploit go next, right? Like in early days of Metasploit, we all worked on it. We were all in IRC all the time and say, oh, have you seen this? This seems cool. Oh, this is there. Oh, this is a lot of targets. We need an exploit for this. Oh, it talks a protocol that's weird. Todd, go write the protocol. Okay. Yeah. And so I do hear a lot of J. Cran in the voice of Mallory. We had a really fun conversation that I would like to explore just a little bit more.
Okay.
We were because you were talking to me. I was saying like Mallory is kind of really spamming Slack. Like how do we dial this back, right? And so we got on the phone and we talked. And as we were talking, I'm like, hey, does Mallory have a notion of irony? Can Mallory do this? And Jaker's like, I think so. Like, and he just immediately starts typing. He's like, find me all the ironic security vulnerabilities of the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And what are those?
Yeah. I mean, it's a Fortinet and Ivanti and security vulnerabilities in security products. Like, it's ridiculous. Like all this attack surface that is self-induced, I guess.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term. And I mean, it's funny for sure.
And that's the thing, right? It's like these are the kinds of vulnerabilities. I'm like, oh, and this was eye-opening for me, right? It's like, oh, I can kind of define real loosely, like what's important to me, and like funny, ironic vulns are incredibly valuable to me, right? And it's like, and then we went through a couple iterations of it, right? Yeah. We were like dialing back. It's like, okay, well. That's more dramatic irony than like than like Alanis Morissette irony.
Well, HD kind of like put this grand challenge in front of us too. He's like, I want to know about CVEs before they're CVEs.
Yeah.
And I would like to be able to get that information as fast as possible. And so like, to get that, where do you have to go? You have to go to like the GitHub issues, and you have to go to the mailing lists, and you have to read that and in real time be able to understand. Okay, is this likely to be an actual vulnerability? Doesn't have a name yet. You need a So when we were here last year, it was May, and I was just getting it off the ground and really starting to figure out what it was. And I would have told you, in a month we'll have entity resolution solved, and we'll have all these core underlying fundamental problems solved. And you need entity resolution because without a CVE, what do you do? Like, is that vulnerability the same vulnerability? Well, how do you know?
Right.
You don't have the source.
The whole point of CVE.
Yeah. And so, yes. There are some like real challenges in that problem. It's not just scrape it off the internet and make sense of it. But yeah, I thank you guys for sort of having these like, hey, try this, which forces a whole bunch of kind of, oh yeah, I think we can probably do that.
Yeah.
But then you realize actually there's a hard problem there.
Well, yeah. So one of the reasons it became a hard problem is that as of 2026 and kind of leading into it, you've got really three factors. You've got a huge number of new vulnerabilities getting added.
Yeah.
You have limited enrichment happening from MVD.
Yeah.
So tons of work, no enrichment. You're just getting a giant pile of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have people with LLMs generating fake exploits all day long that are all garbage.
Right. Yeah.
And so if you look for you can ask an LLM, build me an exploit for ABC. It'll say, I built that exploit, but it's actually for an older vulnerability or a different bug or even an unpatched bug.
Yes.
And so if you're just scraping, Twitter, LinkedIn, things like that, half the stuff you run across these days is either bare, like there's no metadata on it whatsoever, or it's wrong, and it's literally like a malicious exploit hiding inside of a POC.
Yep.
So if you're doing, threat intel the traditional way, like good luck without doing something like this.
Yeah. One kind of fun project was, let's for every exploit that we have in a system, let's go ahead and analyze it. Let's run it through a processor, which has the set of questions like, what does this require, and what does it provide, right? Which is kind of a forcing function to figure out, okay, is this really an exploitable thing? And what do you get? Is it a priv-ask or is it, an RCE, a remote RCE? And and then labeling things with, it's just a scanner, it's not an actual exploit, there is no payload. Being able to kind of extract all that out, and now you can kind of see, okay, well, actually, this vulnerability, which we would traditionally think is very highly prioritized, there's no real payload for it, or it's just a DOS. Yes, it may be a problem, but not as big of a problem as it may seem on the whole RCE.
RCE being remote code execution.
There we go. And so it's been a fun journey. And you're right. We had to go solve that problem of automatic CPE generation, and you can set up a monitor now for trending vulnerabilities or trending ironic vulnerabilities, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And you can click on them and you can see, okay, it's in this, and because we route all that data into that entity, and that entity can have many names. You can then enrich across that and say, okay, well, what does this require? What does it provide? And so you have this always kind of continuously updated view of what's happening in the world, both at the story level, but also at the individual entity level. Mm-hmm. And finally, I feel like I can keep up. Asked me a year ago, I'm like,
Well, and that's exactly it, right? Yeah. If you're trying to do this kind of day-to-day vuln and threat intel in the traditional way, it is impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible.
I would say it's impossible.
Because it is like the stat that Jerry Gamblin, he started us all off this morning. I think it was on my first talk. He said there are, as of today, averages over the last 2 weeks, 163 CVEs are issued in a day.
Yeah.
Now, 90 of those are in some WordPress plugin garbage, right? So you can throw out all those, right? But it's you're left with 50-ish, right? And how many can you analyze in an hour with your dumb eyeball made of meat and goo? That is impossible. It is so hard, right? Now here's a question I have for you. How many do you think, this is not a riddle, I don't have the actual answer, but how many do you think there are of the following? LLM invented software, right? End-to-end, OpenClaw, stuff.
Yeah.
Has a vulnerability, and LLM has now written an exploit for that vulnerability, and the exploit is garbage, and also the original software doesn't work. And how much of that kind of trash do we have to machete our way through to get back to real threat intel? And does Mallory notice that kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess what you're describing, I think, is the intense amount of software that's being created.
Yeah.
Some of which is slop, some of which is my theory on this is you're going to have,
and not even necessarily slop, but software that is made without regard for security, right? That have one of the vulnerabilities I see all the time in LLM generated AI. Sorry, I keep talking. Is our static keys, right? Static API keys, right? Because then with a fully agentic, pipeline, you'd be like, okay, so I got to create an API key. Cool, I created it. Now I'm going to write my software that uses that API key. Congrats, now you have a static API key.
It works. Yeah, it works. Ship it. There's tons and tons of this stuff, and we're going to see more and more and more of it. I think tracking that is going to be, kind of up and to the right. What do you do about that? Ultimately, you need to put controls around AI in your business, and you need to ensure that you can ship fast, right? It's the same problems we've had. It's just like on a massive scale, right? Like, yeah, it really is. I don't know. That doesn't answer the question, but like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's the cheat code though. So when you look at the stream of CVEs coming in, and then you look at other data sources like GitHub security advisories, there are far more GitHub security advisories than CVEs, like by far.
Because the funnel is much wider at the top.
Yeah. But most of them should have gotten a CVE. They just don't. So you've got this massive list of vulnerabilities coming from GitHub security advisories. Like a good example recently, didn't get really a security mention. It was a Go SAML2 library. So vulnerability in this library lets you log out without a credential. Never got a CVE, was barely referenced as security whatsoever. There was a GitHub security advisory for it, but it never went anywhere. No one ever did the second step of requesting a CVE or taking it further.
A lot of that, yes.
So one of the challenges is, if you're concerned about defending your environment, there's a ton of vulnerabilities that you need to care about that literally don't have CVEs. So if you have a vendor and everything you see in the vendor is driven by CVE, you're missing at least half.
Completely agree. And the problem with that has always been like my scanner doesn't find it, so how can I care, right? We had to get past that, and I think runZero has kind of helped us get past that because strong fingerprinting, identification of versions, being able to map those things. So I think we're at a point in 2026 where it's possible to sort of pay attention to those things. Whereas in the past, like you just, even if you collected that information and had the vulnerability intelligence, you couldn't really action it or put it to use.
Yeah. Kind of our epiphany here was like, you don't need to do a deep version check for software if it's on day one of the vulnerability being present, because no one's patched yet, almost by definition. So, if there's a new vulnerability in some new XYZ product, just look for instances of that product and you're 90% there, of the way there. Yeah. And 2 weeks later, maybe get a version by then. But for day one, it just matters. Finding the technology is more important.
Yeah. And if you have to go further, if it's like that widespread, an exploit, right? Like, or a check, right? Yeah. I mean, I think, it's a challenge.
Question for you then. Yeah. So a lot of vendors are auto-generating advisories on their websites for knowledge bases using LLMs without really doing any other work. Now I'll pick on one. So Wiz is very good at taking a CVE, auto-generating an article about it with no context. At the very bottom it says it was AI generated. But if you search for that CVE on the internet saying like, how can I find more information? You're running across someone else's slop entry. And granted, Wiz doesn't need to check for that vulnerability. Their product has nothing to do with that vulnerability, right? They just add that to the public knowledge base.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel about public databases being created by LLMs that are, arguably slop?
Well, there's a lot of it, both at the news level and also at the individual kind of vulnerability or entity level. I mean, listen, it's a fact of life. What else it's become a fact of life, I suppose. The way to deal with that is not to say, like, don't do that or don't ingest it at all. I think you just have to, you should ingest everything as long as there is some value in it and make sense of it with, citations and page rank for security stuff, right? Do people actually trust this? Are other people citing this? That's a really good signal of whether that's information that you should care about or not. So that's kind of how we approach that problem. But you're right. I mean, and I don't see that going away. I mean, it is slop. Yeah.
Well, did we do it? Did we do threat intel is giving
I hope we keep doing it. Yeah.
Yes. I do think we have a slight edge. I mean, I've been talking to a bunch of people today about like the imbalance between offense and defense and how defense is kind of a child of offense. This is something Casey likes to talk about a lot. I still think defenders have a bit of an edge, especially on like the triage side.
You might be alone in that. Honestly, I've asked a bunch of people and like they are attacker.
Yeah. Well, all right. That's fine. We are gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much, Jay Cran. Maybe I'll see you in Austin someday.
Yeah. Where we live. Yeah.
I mean, I've got a thing tomorrow in Austin on Thursday. It's Thursday tomorrow. Okay. So if you want to come. And I think we're going to bang out of here. We're going to come back for a quick wrap with me and Rob King, and I will debrief. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, and we will be right back with final thoughts.